Welcome to Trend Reddit, where I share interesting, useful, and inspiring content. Let's explore the world together through the videos I create. Don't forget to click the follow button so you don't miss anything new. Thank you for visiting and hope we have great experiences together. Samantha Blake stood in front of the ornate mirror in the luxurious bridal suite of the Golden Tulip Hotel, her heart pounding with excitement. The soft fabric of her wedding gown hugged her figure, cascading down in delicate layers that shimmered under the soft lights. As she adjusted her veil, she could hardly contain the smile that lit up her face. Today was supposed to be the happiest day of her life, her wedding day. She envisioned Jonathan waiting for her at the altar, his handsome face glowing with love and pride. But as the minutes ticked by, her excitement slowly morphed into anxiety. Where was Jonathan? The gentle hum of the wedding preparations buzzed in the background, but all she could hear was the ominous silence on the other end of the line when her phone rang. Samantha's heart sank as she answered, her mind racing with thoughts of the worst-case scenarios. "Sam," Jonathan's voice came through, cold and distant. "I can't go through with this." Her breath caught in her throat, the reality of his words crashing down around her. "What do you mean?" she whispered, a tremor of disbelief coloring her tone. "I mean I can't marry you. I just can't." The line crackled, and Samantha felt as if the ground beneath her was crumbling away. "I'm sorry." And just like that, the dream she had meticulously crafted for months shattered. Samantha could feel her heart breaking, each beat echoing the painful truth: Jonathan was abandoning her, leaving her to face a world she thought they would conquer together. Tears welled in her eyes, blurring her reflection as she fought against the wave of despair threatening to engulf her. In a daze, Samantha hung up the phone and turned away from the mirror. The opulence of the hotel room felt suffocating now, its once joyous decorations morphing into reminders of her lost hopes. Her luxurious bridal suite, filled with flowers and laughter, now felt like a prison of dreams gone wrong. As her friends and family gathered, eager for the celebration, she stood alone, invisible amidst the swirling emotions. The news of her wedding's cancellation spread like wildfire, and Samantha quickly became the center of unwanted attention. Whispers followed her wherever she went, the media's gaze turned sharply upon her, portraying her as the jilted bride. Articles headlined with sensationalized accounts of her heartbreak painted a stark contrast to the life she had once known, exposing her vulnerabilities for the world to judge. With no job and no connections, Samantha was forced to leave the luxurious life she had grown accustomed to. The elegant dresses and glamorous parties were replaced by the stark reality of a small, run-down apartment that barely held together. Each creaking floorboard echoed the loneliness she felt in her heart, a reminder of what she had lost. As she settled into her new life, an unexpected turn of events left her reeling. A trip to the doctor confirmed her worst fears: she was pregnant. Panic washed over her as she grappled with the reality of raising not just one child but quadruplets. The thought of doing it alone filled her with dread, but deep down, a fierce determination began to take root. She decided then and there that she would raise her children, Jack, James, Jake, and Jesse, without Jonathan's involvement. Days turned into weeks, and as the babies grew inside her, so did her strength. Samantha found solace in the little kicks and flutters, a reminder that she was not alone. She transformed the rundown apartment into a haven filled with warmth and love. The once empty walls began to echo with the laughter of her children, and with each passing day, she thrived in her new life as a single mother. But even as she adapted to this new reality, the specter of Jonathan loomed in the background, a reminder of her past. Then, on a seemingly ordinary day, fate intervened. Samantha took her boys to the park, the sun shining down as they played, laughter ringing through the air. She turned around to find Jonathan standing there, his eyes wide with disbelief as he beheld his sons for the first time. "Samantha," he began, his voice trembling. "I didn't know." A mix of emotions surged within her: anger, betrayal, protectiveness. She stepped forward, placing herself firmly between Jonathan and the boys. "You made your choice, Jonathan. You don't get to waltz back in now." His expression faltered, and for a brief moment, Samantha saw regret flicker in his eyes. But it was too late. She had built a life for herself and her children, and she would do anything to protect them from the man who had once shattered her heart. As Jonathan stood there, grappling with the reality of his paternity, Samantha knew that this confrontation was only the beginning of a tumultuous journey. She was prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead, fueled by the fierce love she felt for her children and her determination to keep them safe from heartbreak and betrayal. Samantha struggled to adjust to her new reality in the aftermath of her wedding's cancellation. The empty apartment felt like a stark reminder of her shattered dreams, echoing with the silence of a life once filled with promise. Each morning brought a fresh wave of heartbreak as she looked at the nursery she had prepared in her mind for Jonathan's child, now a bittersweet reminder of what could have been. As news of the wedding cancellation spread, Samantha found herself facing the harsh judgment of society. Friends and acquaintances whispered behind her back, their pity palpable. The media sensationalized her story, branding her as the abandoned fiancée. Photos of her tear-stained face appeared in tabloids, and the world watched as her life unraveled. She was portrayed as a victim, the sobbing bride left at the altar, and she loathed the way her heartbreak was exploited for entertainment. With no job and limited resources, Samantha moved into a small, run-down apartment, a far cry from the luxury of her previous life. The peeling wallpaper and creaking floors served as constant reminders of her newfound solitude. She struggled to maintain a sense of normalcy for her children, who were still on their way, and worked tirelessly to make the space feel like home. But each day was a battle against the loneliness that crept in, threatening to engulf her. Just when Samantha thought things couldn't get any more complicated, she discovered she was pregnant, an unexpected twist that sent her spiraling. Panic and confusion washed over her as she realized she was carrying quadruplets. The news hit her like a freight train, the weight of it almost too much to bear. Thoughts raced through her mind. How could she possibly raise 4 children alone? What would she do without Jonathan's support? In the depths of her uncertainty, a fierce determination began to take shape. She made the decision to raise her children, Jack, James, Jake, and Jesse, on her own, without Jonathan's involvement. Samantha was resolute. She would not allow Jonathan to dictate her life any longer. The strength she found in her growing children became a beacon of hope. With each passing day, the flutters in her belly reassured her that she was not alone. As her due date approached, Samantha embraced her new identity. She learned to navigate the challenges of single motherhood, finding joy in the little moments. The boys became her world, and she poured her love into them, determined to give them the life she had envisioned for them. Nights were spent reading to them, singing lullabies, and planning for the future. The apartment transformed into a home filled with warmth and laughter, a refuge from the world outside. However, the past was never far behind. One sunny afternoon, Samantha took her sons to the park, eager to let them enjoy the outdoors. They laughed and played, their innocent joy a balm to her heart. But fate had other plans. As she watched her boys run around, she felt a presence behind her. Turning slowly, she froze as Jonathan stood before her, his face a mix of shock and wonder. Samantha's heart raced as he approached, his gaze fixed on the quadruplets. "Samantha," he said, his voice shaky, "I didn't know. I didn't realize." Emotion surged within her, anger, resentment, and a deep protectiveness. She took a step forward, positioning herself between Jonathan and the boys. "You don't get to come here and act like you care, Jonathan. You made your choice when you canceled our wedding." His expression shifted, revealing a glimpse of remorse, but Samantha wasn't swayed. The pain of his abandonment was still fresh, and she wouldn't allow him to hurt her again. "These boys are my life now," she continued, her voice steady. "You had your chance and you threw it away." Jonathan's shoulders slumped as he processed her words, the reality of his fatherhood hitting him like a tidal wave. The emotional confrontation stirred something deep within him, perhaps he realized the gravity of his decisions. But Samantha couldn't allow herself to feel sympathy. She had fought too hard to create a loving environment for her children to let him disrupt their lives now. Days turned into weeks, and the tension simmered just below the surface. Jonathan was not willing to let go easily. Determined to be involved in the boys' lives, he sought legal counsel and filed for custody, igniting a fierce legal battle. Samantha braced herself for the storm that was about to unfold. The mere thought of Jonathan fighting for custody made her stomach churn. Would he try to take her boys away from her? Would she have to endure a courtroom showdown with the man who had already caused her so much pain? As the custody hearings approached, Samantha found herself torn between her anger and the boys' right to know their father. She struggled with the implications of Jonathan's reappearance in their lives, the conflicting emotions swirling within her. Adding to her turmoil was the arrival of Vivian, Jonathan's new girlfriend, who tried to assert her role in both Jonathan's life and that of the boys. Vivian's presence only fueled Samantha's protective instincts. She was determined to keep her family safe from the influence of the woman who could easily disrupt the fragile balance she had created. As the courtroom date drew near, Samantha steeled herself for the fight ahead. She would protect her children at all costs. The love she felt for Jack, James, Jake, and Jesse was unyielding, and she would channel that love into the battle of her life. The tension reached a boiling point one sunny afternoon when Samantha took the boys to the local park. Jack, James, Jake, and Jesse laughed and played, their joy infectious as they chased each other around the vibrant playground. For Samantha, watching them was a bittersweet reminder of how far she had come, yet a part of her still felt the weight of Jonathan's absence looming over them. As she sat on a nearby bench, the sun warmed her skin, and for a moment, she allowed herself to relax. Just then, she caught sight of a familiar figure in the distance. Jonathan. Her heart sank as he approached, the boys oblivious to the tension in the air. The moment Jonathan laid eyes on his sons, his expression transformed. It was a mix of disbelief and awe that quickly shifted into an emotional turmoil that Samantha had never seen before. "Sam," he called out, his voice trembling slightly. "I didn't know. I had no idea they were this old." He took a few hesitant steps closer, his eyes fixated on the boys as they continued to play, laughter ringing in the air. Samantha felt a rush of conflicting emotions. Anger bubbled up inside her, furious at the man who had left her alone to navigate the treacherous waters of single motherhood. She stood up, placing herself protectively between Jonathan and the boys. "You don't get to come here and act like you care, Jonathan," she said, her voice steady despite the storm raging within her. "You made your choice when you canceled our wedding." His face fell, the weight of her words crashing over him. "I know I messed up, Sam. But they're my sons. I deserve to know them. If you think the story is good, leave a comment with the number 1, and if not, please subscribe to the channel. If the video is helpful to you, don't forget to hit the like button." "Deserve?" Samantha echoed, incredulous. "You think you can just waltz back in after abandoning us and play the role of a father? You had your chance, and you threw it away." Jonathan's shoulders sagged as he took in her words, guilt etched across his features. For a moment, Samantha saw a flicker of regret in his eyes, but it quickly turned into frustration. "I want to be a part of their lives. I want to know them," he pleaded, desperation creeping into his voice. Samantha's heart raced. This was the moment she had feared, the moment when Jonathan would try to stake a claim on her life and the lives of her children. She was prepared for this confrontation, but seeing the raw emotion in his eyes made her reconsider for a brief second. Still, she stood firm. "You made your choice when you walked away from us. You don't get to come back and expect everything to be okay." "Sam, please," he insisted, stepping closer, his voice softer now. "I want to make things right. I want to be their father." The boys, sensing the tension, paused their game and looked over, confusion on their faces. Samantha's instinct kicked in, and she turned to them, her heart racing. "Boys, come here," she called, ushering them closer, her protective instincts flaring. Jonathan knelt down, trying to engage them, but Samantha interjected. "They don't know you, Jonathan. They don't need to get hurt again because of your choices." She felt a surge of protectiveness as she shielded her sons from the man who had caused her so much pain. Jonathan's expression shifted again, realization dawning on him. "They're my children too," he said quietly, his voice laced with anguish. Samantha's heart twisted at his words, but she couldn't let herself falter. "You made your choice, and now you need to live with it." She felt a mixture of sorrow and anger surging through her, and she stood her ground, ready to defend her family. In that moment, everything seemed to hang in the balance: the past, the present, and the uncertain future. Jonathan looked at her, searching for understanding, but she was resolute. "You can't just show up now and expect to be a father," she reiterated, her voice strong. "You need to understand the damage you've caused." The boys, still watching, began to sense the tension and looked back and forth between their mother and Jonathan, confusion etched on their faces. Samantha knelt down to their level, brushing a hand through Jack's hair. "It's okay, guys. Just keep playing. Mommy's got this." Jonathan's gaze softened as he watched the interaction, but the weight of his choices hung heavy in the air. Samantha could see it, a flicker of uncertainty as he grappled with the reality of fatherhood that he had turned his back on. "Maybe I've messed up," Jonathan said finally, his voice breaking. "But I want to change. I want to be there for them." The sincerity in his voice was palpable, but Samantha felt a pang of skepticism. How could she trust him after everything? "I'll always protect my boys," she stated firmly, her heart racing as she prepared for the storm that was coming. "And if you truly want to be part of their lives, you need to prove it to me first." As Jonathan nodded, determination etched on his face, Samantha felt a mix of dread and resolve. This was just the beginning of the battle that lay ahead, and she was prepared to fight for her family. In the days that followed the emotional confrontation at the park, Samantha found herself plunged into a whirlwind of anxiety and uncertainty. Jonathan was determined to be involved in the boys' lives, and he wasted no time in pursuing legal action. With the arrival of court documents and the sound of her own heartbeat echoing in her ears, she felt the weight of the impending battle bearing down on her. Jonathan hired a lawyer, and soon Samantha was faced with a looming custody hearing. Each day brought new fears and insecurities as she prepared for the courtroom showdown. The prospect of Jonathan gaining any legal rights over her children sent chills down her spine. The thought of him walking back into their lives with the authority to disrupt everything she had fought for made her stomach churn. Samantha had poured her heart and soul into creating a nurturing environment for Jack, James, Jake, and Jesse. Their laughter filled the small apartment, a stark contrast to the legal turmoil unfolding outside their door. But as much as she wanted to shield them from the reality of their father's reemergence, she knew the day of reckoning was approaching fast. On the morning of the custody hearing, Samantha stood in front of the mirror, her reflection revealing a woman marked by the trials she had endured. Her hair was neatly tied back, and her heart raced as she adjusted her blouse. Today, she was not just a mother, she was a warrior. The boys, still unaware of the storm brewing, played in the living room, their laughter a soothing balm against her rising anxiety. As they made their way to the courthouse, Samantha felt a mix of dread and determination. She had made a promise to herself to protect her children at all costs, and she wasn't about to let Jonathan's whims threaten the life they had built together. The courtroom was intimidating, the air thick with tension as she took her seat. Jonathan entered, flanked by his attorney, and a wave of anger surged through her. How could he sit there with such confidence after everything he had put her through? The judge entered, and the proceedings began. Samantha listened as Jonathan's lawyer painted a picture of a remorseful father eager to reclaim his place in the boys' lives. She felt her blood boil as they presented Jonathan's argument, trying to convince the court that he had changed and wanted to be a part of his children's upbringing. Samantha clenched her fists, battling the urge to rise and shout that this man had abandoned them. When it was her turn to speak, Samantha gathered her courage and stood before the judge. "Your Honor," she began, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. "I've worked hard to create a stable, loving home for my sons. They've never known the chaos of their father's absence, and I intend to keep it that way." As she spoke, she could see Jonathan's face contort with frustration, and it fueled her resolve. She recounted the struggles she had faced alone, the sleepless nights, the moments of doubt, and the joy she found in her children. They deserve consistency and stability, she insisted, and I will do everything in my power to protect that. The judge listened attentively, and Samantha could feel the weight of his gaze. She knew she had to make him understand the depth of her commitment to her children. Her words flowed with the passion of a mother determined to defend her family, and as she finished, she caught Jonathan's eyes. For a moment, she saw a flicker of uncertainty in him, a glimpse of the man she once loved. But the moment was fleeting. As the hearings progressed, Vivian made her presence known, asserting herself in the proceedings. Samantha felt her protective instincts flare as Vivian attempted to position herself as a support system for Jonathan, insinuating that he was ready to provide a stable family environment. The sight of Vivian infuriated her, fueling Samantha's desire to fight even harder for her boys. With each passing day of hearings, Samantha found herself at war, not only with Jonathan but also with the doubt that threatened to creep in. Would the court see her as the devoted mother she was, or would they be swayed by Jonathan's claims? She faced sleepless nights filled with anxiety, questioning whether she was doing the right thing for her children. As the final day of the hearings approached, Samantha felt the weight of the world on her shoulders. The thought of losing her boys was unbearable, and she was determined to give them the future they deserved. With her lawyer's guidance, she prepared her closing statements, pouring her heart into every word. In that pivotal moment, the courtroom atmosphere shifted. The judge looked at Samantha with a newfound respect, recognizing the love and dedication that radiated from her. "It's clear that you have fought for your children," he stated, his voice steady. "And the bond you share with them is evident." Jonathan's face darkened, frustration palpable as he realized the tides were turning against him. The air crackled with tension as Samantha awaited the final decision, her heart pounding in her chest. She could feel the eyes of the court upon her, each moment stretching into eternity. In that charged silence, Samantha knew she had fought hard for her family. Whatever the outcome, she was prepared to face it head-on, ready to protect her children from the uncertainty that loomed ahead. The courtroom fell silent as the judge prepared to deliver his verdict. Samantha's heart raced, each tick of the clock feeling like an eternity. She sat on the edge of her seat, clutching her lawyer's hand tightly, her palms sweaty with anticipation. Jonathan's expression was a mask of impatience, his jaw clenched, while Vivian leaned forward, her eyes narrowing as if willing the judge to side with them. Finally, the judge cleared his throat, and the room held its breath. "After careful consideration of the evidence presented and the testimonies given, I have reached a decision regarding the custody of the minor children, Jack, James, Jake, and Jesse." He paused, looking directly at Samantha, then turning his gaze to Jonathan. Samantha felt a wave of nausea wash over her, her pulse pounding in her ears. This was it, the moment that could change everything for her and her children. The judge continued, "It is clear that Samantha Blake has provided a stable and loving environment for her children since their birth. The bond she shares with them is evident, and the boys have flourished under her care." Samantha felt tears of relief sting her eyes, but she quickly blinked them away. She focused on the judge's words, desperate to absorb every moment of this victory. "I recognize the importance of a father's role in a child's life. However," the judge continued, "the court must prioritize the best interests of the children above all else. Given the circumstances surrounding Jonathan's departure and his lack of involvement in their lives until now, I am awarding primary custody to Samantha Blake." Samantha's breath caught in her throat as she processed his words. Joy surged within her, filling her with an overwhelming sense of triumph. The tension in the courtroom shifted, and she could feel the weight of the world lifting off her shoulders. Jonathan's face fell, disbelief washing over him as he processed the decision. "Your Honor," he began, his voice shaking slightly, "I'm their father. I deserve a chance to be part of their lives." The judge held up a hand, his expression firm. "You will have visitation rights, Jonathan, but the primary responsibility for their upbringing will remain with Samantha. This decision is not made lightly, and it reflects the circumstances surrounding your previous actions and their impact on the children." As the judge's gavel struck, signaling the end of the proceedings, Samantha felt a wave of emotions crashing over her. She had won. She had fought for her children and emerged victorious. Her heart swelled with pride and relief, knowing that she could continue to protect her boys from the turmoil that had threatened to engulf them. Jonathan stood, his face a mixture of anger and defeat. "You'll regret this, Samantha. You can't keep them from me forever," he spat, his voice low and threatening. Samantha's heart raced, but she refused to let fear take hold. "I won't let you disrupt their lives again," she said firmly, meeting his gaze with unwavering strength. "You made your choice, Jonathan, and now you have to live with it." As they left the courtroom, Samantha felt the weight of Jonathan's presence lift from her shoulders. She turned to her lawyer, gratitude flooding her. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I couldn't have done this without your support." Her lawyer smiled warmly. "You fought hard for your boys, Samantha. They are lucky to have you as their mother." In the days following the hearing, Samantha's life settled into a newfound rhythm. The apartment, once filled with tension and anxiety, now resonated with laughter and joy. Jack, James, Jake, and Jesse thrived under her care, their innocent smiles lighting up her world. The bond they shared deepened, and Samantha reveled in the moments spent playing, reading, and simply being together. The visitation arrangement with Jonathan was established, but Samantha made it clear that she would always prioritize her children's well-being. She set boundaries to ensure that Jonathan's visits would not disrupt the stability she had created. Each time he came around, she remained vigilant, knowing she had to protect her boys from the emotional fallout of their father's inconsistencies. One evening, as the boys settled down for bed, Samantha tucked them in, her heart brimming with love. "Mommy, are we going to see Daddy again?" Jack asked innocently, his big eyes searching hers. Samantha paused, her heart aching at the question. "You can see him when he visits, but remember, it's okay to feel however you feel about that," she said gently. "What matters most is that we have each other." The boys nodded, and she leaned down to kiss each of them goodnight. As she stepped out of their room, she felt a sense of peace wash over her. Samantha had come through the storm, emerging stronger and more resilient than ever. The journey had been filled with challenges, but she had fought for her family with every ounce of strength she had. And in that moment, she knew she had created a loving home, a safe haven for her children, and a future filled with hope. In the weeks and months that followed, Samantha found herself embracing the life she had built. The love of her children filled her heart, and she knew that together, they could face whatever came next. The past no longer held power over her, she was free to embrace the future with open arms, secure in the knowledge that true strength came from within. Samantha sat on the balcony of their apartment, the evening sun casting a warm glow over the city skyline. The air was filled with the sounds of laughter as Jack, James, Jake, and Jesse played in the living room, their joy a comforting backdrop to her thoughts. It was hard to believe that just months ago, she had faced a devastating heartbreak and the chaos of an uncertain future. Now, the scene before her was one of peace and fulfillment, a life transformed. Reflecting on her journey, Samantha felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. The fight for her children had been arduous, filled with moments of doubt and fear. But each challenge had strengthened her resolve and deepened her understanding of what it meant to be a mother. She had learned that resilience was not just about surviving but thriving in the face of adversity. Her relationship with the boys had flourished, blossoming into something beautiful. They were her everything, her source of strength and inspiration. Each day was a new adventure, filled with laughter, love, and the occasional chaos that came with raising 4 energetic boys. The bond they shared was unbreakable, forged through the trials they had faced together. Samantha cherished every moment, knowing that their laughter was the sweetest melody she could ever hope to hear. While the memories of Jonathan's abandonment lingered, they no longer held power over her. She had turned the pain into fuel, driving her to create a life filled with love and stability. The custody arrangement with Jonathan was not ideal, but Samantha had learned to navigate the complexities with grace. She remained vigilant, ensuring that her boys felt safe and secure in their home. Samantha had taken control of her narrative, refusing to be defined by her past. She focused on what truly mattered, the happiness and well-being of her children. As she watched them grow, she found joy in the little things, The way they squealed with delight at a new game, the tenderness of their hugs, and the quiet moments spent reading bedtime stories together. These were the moments that filled her heart with gratitude and purpose. Her journey also brought new friendships, connections with other single mothers who understood her struggles and triumphs. They shared stories, laughter, and sometimes tears, creating a community of support that further enriched her life. Samantha found solace in knowing she was not alone, that others had walked similar paths and emerged stronger. As she took a deep breath, savoring the fragrant breeze, Samantha realized that her heart was finally at peace. The pain of betrayal had transformed into a powerful reminder of her strength. She had learned to trust again, not only in herself but in the love she had cultivated with her children. The lessons of her past had paved the way for a brighter future. In the months ahead, Samantha looked forward to new adventures with her boys, family trips to the park, birthday celebrations filled with laughter, and quiet evenings spent watching movies together. They had built a life full of love, resilience, and joy, and she was determined to cherish every moment. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, Samantha felt a sense of hope blooming within her. She had faced the storm and emerged victorious. The love of a mother was a force to be reckoned with, and she had proven that no matter the challenges, she could rise above and create a life worth living. Samantha smiled as she heard the boys calling her name, their laughter pulling her back to the present. She would always protect her children, nurture their dreams, and be their guiding light. Her journey had not only shaped her into a fierce protector but had also instilled in her the understanding that true strength comes from within. In that moment, surrounded by the laughter of her children, Samantha knew she had found her purpose. She looked forward to the future, secure in the love they shared and the home they had built together. The journey was far from over, but she was ready to embrace whatever lay ahead, confident in her ability to weather any storm. If you think the story is good, leave a comment with the number 1, and if not, please subscribe to the channel. If the video is helpful to you, don't forget to hit the like button.